School Principal, Mrs. Alicia M. Danao, our Assistant School Principal, Mrs. Maria Teresa A. Torrechante, our OIC Technical Facilities and Multimedia 1, Mrs. Cristel E. Flor, school coordinators, assistant school coordinators, team leaders, teachers, office staff, guest speakers, DIWA team, and Franciscan students. Good day and welcome to our Mental Health Awareness Seminar in partnership with DIWA. To formally start our program, let's have an invocation to be followed by the Lupang Hinirang and Cavite hymn carried by Mrs. Cristel E. Flor.
Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it's in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang mag-ibig, telas ng sinakanan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyag ka ng mag-ibig, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisingil, sa nagagang tutok sa simoy at sa langit mong bangaw, ay hinatang tula, awit sa pagkayang minamahal. Ang isang ng patawad mo'y tagumpay na nagtitindig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pamay di magtitindig. Luma ng araw ng walang pagsinta, mo'y langit sa piling mo. Ang inigaya ng pagkay mga amin, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Bayang Cavite, aking mahal, laging patnubay ng may kapal. Sa yakap mo ay langit ang buhay at laging makulay. May isang siglo nang nagdaan, bayan mong kawitan kung saan ay sinilang ang kalayaan, ang lahat ay nagdiwang. Cavite, Cavite, lagi ka sa puso ko. Cavite, Cavite, buhay ko'y handog sa'yo. Kung mapit, lakas ko'y laan, ang maglingkod sa'yo'y kaigaan. Cavite, Cavite, ang lalawigan kong mahal. Mahal kita, Cavite, dahilang sa may
Thank you so much. According to WHO, or the World Health Organization, there is no single official definition of mental health. Mental health refers to a person's psychological, emotional, and social well-being. It influences what they feel and how they think and behave. The state of cognitive and behavioral well-being is referred to as mental health. The term mental health is also used to refer to the absence of mental disease. Mental health means keeping our minds healthy. Mankind generally is more focused on keeping their physical body healthy. People tend to ignore the state of their minds. Human superiority over other animals lies in his superior mind. Man has been able to control life due to his highly developed brain. So it becomes very important for a man to keep both his body and mind fit and healthy. Both physical and mental health are equally important for better performance and results. To start with, may I present to you our enthusiastic school principal, Mrs. Alicia M. Danao, for her opening remarks.
Thank you, Ms. Ponday. To the administration of the school, headed by our management administrator, Mrs. Joyce R. Malinaw, our assistant principal, Mrs. Maria Teresa A. Torrechante, other administrators, school heads of all school and branches, faculty members, supportive parents, DIWA team, Miss Lore and Miss Bea, to our knowledgeable guest speaker, Dr. Liecel M. Trinidad Fulgencio, Franciscan learners from grade 7 to grade 12, ladies and gentlemen, a blessed and joyful afternoon. At the outset, allow me to welcome all of you to the Mental Health Awareness Webinar 2022. The purpose of this significant gathering is to enlighten the minds of our learners, because I do believe that healthy mind produces a healthy body, and the health self-image is one of the key factors in the success and happiness of any individual. The objective of this webinar is to help every learner to overcome stress, anxiety, and uncertainty you are all facing due to the current situation we are all in. I do hope that after the encouraging and meaningful talk of Dr. Liecel, each of the learner will be fortified with resilience, perseverance, and strength to face the setbacks and challenges that come your way. This also aims to remind each of you that your school administrators really care for you, and we value each learner as precious, unique individual. Always remember, Franciscan learners, God created you to excel. He has given you ability, insight, talent, and wisdom to become a person God made you to be. Thank you and have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Danao. Thank you for this opportunity, Tiwa team. To all our students, be an active and attentive listener. You may raise your questions after the talk of our speaker. Up next, let's welcome our loving and hardworking management administrator, Mrs. Joyson R. Molino, to introduce our speaker for today's webinar.
A pleasant day to everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you here this afternoon. I would like to thank you, my dear parents, teachers, and students for joining us today for this mental health awareness seminar. Mental health is now being discussed widely during these exceptional times of pandemic. Many of us confronted with psychological problems related to isolation, anxiety, loneliness, depression, fears, and worry. Mental health awareness gives us opportune reminder that mental well-being is essential. We really deserve care, understanding, and most of all, healing. Before I introduce our speaker for today, please allow me to welcome and thank you Ms. Bea Beras, Technical and Multimedia, and Ms. L'Oreal Cruz, Accounts Manager from Genio and Diwa Learning Systems, for inviting our speaker for today, exclusive for our school, the St. Francis community. Now, I feel extremely honored to introduce our guest speaker with mouthful of credentials. She is a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Chemistry and a Doctor of Medicine in Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila, with internship programs from Hospital ng Maynila Medical Center and Medical Center Manila. A former chief resident from the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Medicine in UP Philippine General Hospital, and at present a clinical associate professor, a section chief of psychiatry of Marikina Valley Medical Center, a consultant for general adult psychiatry of Health First, and a professor in Emilio Aguinaldo College School of Medicine. Please welcome Dr. Liecel M. Trinidad Fulgencio. Now, make sure to listen, prepare your notes and your questions later. Good afternoon, my dear students and parents, and have a healthy mind to all.
Okay, thank you ma'am for the introduction. Marami pong salamat St. Francis Community and of course Diwa Learning System for actually inviting me to be part of this webinar. I am a practicing psychiatrist and it really warms my heart every time that I am asked to have a lecture because we realize now this is a response to your desire to learn mental health. So nakakatabaho ng puso. What used to be something na hindi masyadong pinag-uusapan ay pinag-uusapan na ngayon. Okay. So for this afternoon, we will focus on the contemporary view on children and adolescent mental health concerns. Kaya contemporary because these are what we are experiencing at the moment. So if you notice, okay, the definitions, bakit shook ang ating pangalan, Of course, you note, ang shook is a millennial term which means frazzled, or feeling several emotions at once. Probably you are using it when you encounter them. Okay. However, okay, for this afternoon, what we will be doing is to try to understand ano ho ba ang mga bagay-bagay. We go on into describing the adolescent stage, what makes it unique, and then we move on to what are the mental health concerns that this group of special population experiences. We went through adolescence. Adolescence is a time of tumultuous growth, because we have a lot of growth during the time physically. We have a lot of growth emotionally, as well as in terms of the responsibilities that we need to do, such that physical development is something that everyone sees. So transition siya from childhood to adulthood, but the problem is the parents will tell you that you better behave because you are no longer a child, but when you ask them to do something, can I go out? Oh no, you're still very young. That is the reason why you are smack in the middle of it. Not only that, because there are changes in bodily functions and appearance, there is then a strong natural preoccupation with appearance. Kung kaya't they are self-conscious and very critical. No? So you imagine how it is, no, napakahirap po to place them in an online learning. Bakit? Tayo nga every time that we see ourselves in the monitor, we get to be conscious about it. So what more, no? Ito hong mga kabataan who are very self-conscious about the way they look. Okay? So that is for the physical. Okay? Not only that, excuse me, not only that, no, mahirap para sa kanila because ang nagiging tendencies, no, they really feel, no, that people are actually seeing them. Excuse me. Okay. There is also an intense and variable emotional state. Okay. In what sense? No, because they are starting to form their identities, no, so they have to actually try to understand what they are capable of. As such, they are always in need of support and acceptance. No? Parati ho yung need for what you call an approval. Okay? Zoom in to the present generation. Hindi lang sila teenagers, sila rin ho ay member, no, ng Gen Z community. No? Ano ho yung unique sa pagiging Gen Z? If you notice Gen Z, they are also referred to as the iGen generation because number one, they are digital natives. No? Meaning, they were born in the era that you already have all these gadgets. No? Hindi ho katulad namin, nung time ko, no, ang internet connection, di dial up, no, magbubura ka pa, no, ng card para makakonect. Now, everything is digital. No? So they did not live at a time that there was no internet. Okay? Kaya sila iGen. At the same time, they are very social, meaning that they spend 7.6 hours per day socializing with friends. Ano yung problem doon? Most of the socializations happen on the internet. Okay? They can use 5 screens at the same time. No? Yung anak ko minsan nalalaro, no? Pero naka-on yung cellphone, no? Minsan may TV pa, no? So you have a lot, no? However, yung reason then why they spend more hours, no, with their gadgets is because, no, during our time ang gadgets hiwa-hiwalay, di ba? Iba ho yung cellphone, iba ho yung landline, iba ho yung pagmakinig ka ng radio kasi may Walkman o kaya may CD player. But now you can do everything with your smartphone, di ba? You can watch a movie, you can send an email, you can listen to music by Spotify. No? So lahat digitally based. Okay? At the same time, they are technically savvy. No? So even the very young ones, no, pwede ho sila, no, na magturo. By the way, this age group are those born, no, from 1997 hanggang 2010. Okay, so mostly yan yung ating mga students, high school students, but younger than that, ibang generation yun, alpha generation sila. Okay, they are also less focused. Notice, attention span, 8 seconds. Okay, so sana meron pa sa aking nakikinig, no? Ang sabi nga nila, it only gives them 8 seconds. For example, in YouTube, you only need 8 seconds and then they move on to another video. Okay? But at the same time, no, they are very interactive because 34% are concerned with boosting their people management skills. They are also more focused on getting information in the internet. Kaya rin minsan, ang mga tanong nila kakaiba. Diba? If you notice, no, ang dami nilang mga questions that are sometimes far advanced for their age because of the digital age. Okay, and they are also very cautious. So you see, they are connected, no, but at the same time disconnected from the real people with very low attention span, but very much interested with what is happening in the world. And there lies the conflict. Okay. So, ano ho ba ang mga nangyayari, no? Parent-adolescent relationship. It has always been a struggle. Ang sabi ng old model, no, there is autonomy and detachment from the parents. That is the reason why it creates an intense, stressful conflict between that particular relationship. Kaya siya stormy. However, what we say now is that yes, there is a sense of autonomy, there is still a certain sense of attachment. Therefore, parents are important support systems and attachment figures, no? Yung kung dati ho sabi nila peers lang ang important, we will always emphasize that the parent should still be there for their children even if they are already teenagers. Okay? Because there is a moderate parent-adolescent conflict is common, but it can serve as an important positive developmental function, no? Ang sabi nila, ang conflict very prominent sa early adolescence. Therefore, you have to be there with your children so that hindi siya maging mas malala when they grow up, no? When they age further. Therefore, adolescents' ability to attain autonomy and gain control is acquired through appropriate adult reactions to their desire for control. No? So, ibig sabihin po, no, hindi kailangang mag-no agad. You listen to them first. No? Ako, I usually tell them, so what do you think I should do? No? So what is your proposal? No? That way, you listen to their proposal and then you meet halfway. No? So that is one way of addressing that relationship. Okay? Now we move on. Sabi natin, the focus is mental health. Okay? Sabi kanila kanina, it's difficult to define mental health, but the World Health Organization tells us that having a mental health is a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own abilities, cope with the normal stresses of life, work productively, and make a contribution to his or her community. Notice, no? Hindi po sinasabi that you shouldn't feel anything, that you shouldn't be sad, you shouldn't be anxious, because that is an awareness, no? That you can have all these stresses, you can all have these reactions, but what is important is you can cope. What is important is you can work productively, no? Similar to a housewife doing her chores. Hindi man siya nagwo-work because she is productive. Actually, mas mahirap maging housewife, no? Mas nakakapagod. Hence, she is of good mental health. Each time we go to school, hindi man tayo 100% performance all the time, but we try to log in, we do our best to listen. That is still of good mental health. Okay, and if we try to go to work, we try to do our best, no, to actually come for work, meet the demands, then we are of good mental health. Okay, but what are some of the mental health concerns, no, that these Gen Z are encountering right now? Okay, simulan ho natin sa salitang depression. Depression is the abnormal alteration in the mood, behavior, and thinking. However, you have to take into account ano ba yung bata prior, no, sa kanyang pagkakasakit. Okay? Depression. Ano ho yung difference ng depression? Pag sinabi kong depression, I am referring to clinical depression versus sadness or being depressed mood or having a depressed mood. There are two different details. Sadness is a normal feeling in response to a loss. Ngayon ho sa atin, marami sa atin ang nagluluksa. No? A lot of us, I am sure, in this group, no, ng almost 300 participants, one of us, no, a few or even half has lost a loved one for the past 2 years. And it's normal to feel sad because of that loss. No, mawala lang ho, no, yung isang importanteng bagay, we can feel sad. What more if we lost a loved one? So that is normal. However, depression is different in the sense that this is a pathological sadness, no, meaning ito ho ay matinding kalungkutan, no, which is signified by a significant distress, no, ikaw mismo, you cannot rise above it, and there is a loss of control. Because sadness at some point stops and allows you to do some activities, therefore you can perform well. However, if you are so sad, consumed by that sadness, and you have a difficult time, no, coping with what is expected of you, it leads to functional impairment. Therefore, it is no longer a normal sadness, but already a depression. Okay? Ang problem, no, karamihan ho sa atin nako-correlate na siya'y depressed. Ang sinasabi niya, depressed siya, but he or she is only referring to a depressed mood. Okay? Sino naman ho ang hindi malulungkot? 2 taon kang hindi nakakalabas ng bahay. No? Sabi nga ng anak ko, how can I communicate with my friends when my usual is I talk to them when we have recess, no? And that has been deprived of them for the past 2 years. Of course, it can be saddening. Okay? However, hindi necessarily depression 'yon. No, because for sadness, no, to be called depression, there has to be a loss and a functional impairment, no, loss of control, hindi na siya ma-shut off. Okay, how prevalent is depression? No, across our lifespan, ito ho yung risk natin for depression. For a preschool child, the chances of you getting depressed is 0.3 to 0.9. Okay, and when that child grows up, enters school, the chances of that child getting depression is 2 to 3%. No? Equal prevalence for both males and females. However, when this child, no, becomes a teenager, okay, the risk now increases and zooms into 4 to 8%, doubled. Okay, and this time around, you have a predominantly female, no, statistics of 3:1. Bakit ganoon? We say that probably it's the hormones, no, that is causing the increases, no. Not only that, no, ngayon meron na rin tayong mga technical concerns that we will have to think about. When this child, no, this teenager grows up, no, at maging adult na siya, the risk now rises to 20%. 20% meaning sa kada, no, 5 tao, okay, sa kada 5 tao, isa ang pwedeng mag-fall into depression. This time still female, and that person, when she becomes an elderly individual or a senior citizen, it further increases to 25%. Okay, so what is the learning? Okay, the chances of us getting depressed in our lifetime, no, increases as we age, no. Sa males, mas mababa ng kaunti. Okay? Pero ito ay 2010 statistics. Walang pandemya, no? Therefore, sa tingin ba natin ito ba'y tataas or bababa? Ang sagot diyan, ang statistics natin ay tumataas at this point in time. Okay? Sa pag-aaral in a 12-month prevalence, no, of major depressive episodes, no, comparing 2005 to 2014, malaki yung jump from 8.7% to 11.3%. And the increase was largest in the 12 to 20 age group. However, the problem is mental health care contacts did not change over time. Meaning, dumadami ang depressed pero hindi po sila nakakapagpakonsulta. Okay? Actually, for most of my interactions, it is the child who has initiated the consultation. No? Kung kaya ho, doon sa mga magulang, no, na nakikinig po sa atin, once your child tells you that I feel sad, listen to that. No, hindi ho yung automatic minsan kasi we get to be defensive. Maayos ang buhay mo. Nagtatrabaho kami para sa iyo. Why do you feel bad? No? Because there are still challenges, no, that even well-meaning parents cannot actually provide for the kid. No? So you have to listen to that. Okay? And what are the trends now? There is a larger increase in depressive symptoms in girls than in boys, and the trends in suicide identified a greater increase among girls and young women. And the reason for that is because of cyberbullying. Okay, that is one. Therefore, no, there is also problematic mobile use among young people has been linked to depressed mood. No? So yung mas madalas ho na nasa gadgets, no, you have to pay particular attention, no, lalong-lalo na ho yung hindi na lumalabas ng kwarto because you have to increase their interactions with real people. Okay? So, what are the symptoms of depression? Okay, nagbabago kasi yung symptoms depending on their age group as well. Okay, this one is your symptoms of depression: depressed mood, loss of interest in previously pleasurable activities, no? Changes in weight na hindi ka naman nagda-diet, no? Changes in sleep, psychomotor changes, no? Even in the morning, you feel low bat, no? Feelings of worthlessness and guilt, decreased concentration, and of course, a desire to hurt yourself, no? And how many, this one is the typical and what we call the DSM-5, no? Ang sabi po nila, you need to have 5 out of the 9 symptoms and you have to feel it every day for the next 2 weeks. Okay? Kung merong ganon, then that is already a red flag. However, that is, kung ano ho yung pinakita ko ngayon is typical of adults. Okay? However, manifestation of clinical depression varies depending on the developmental stage. If you notice, ang pagiging bata ho is actually protective, no, of depression, no? Kasi kailangan mo ng higher cognitive abilities, higher thinking for you to feel sad. For you to feel depressed, I mean. Okay? So, what are examples for teenagers? You have a lot of restlessness, you have irritability, no? Kung dati willingly comes, no, to activities, now you have somebody who is reluctant to cooperate, social withdrawal, school difficulties, negativistic and antisocial behavior, and the use of alcohol and illicit substances, no? These are more common in teenagers. Okay? How about suicide? Okay? What is, pareho ba, no, ang suicidal ideations, no? Are they as intense? No, suicidal ideations are frequently but not always associated with depressive disorders. It occurs in all age group, okay, but completed suicide is very rare in children younger than 12. Okay? Completed suicide is higher in boys kasi sila ho yung mas lethal, yung ginagamit na methods, no? Hanging, no? Sila yung mas determined to finish, no? Once they decide to end it, no? On the other hand, no, there are far greater attempted suicide in girls than in boys. Okay? And what is the reason? Okay? I will introduce you to another term which is what you call, no, deliberate self-harm. Ito ho yung mas nagiging common sa mga kabataan. Deliberate self-harm is often referred to as parasuicide or non-suicidal self-injury. Kasi the most common reason or what they do is the intentional destruction of one's body but not because of suicidal intent. No? Most of them would like to harm themselves out of frustration for what is happening with their life. Okay, so this is an act that is not socially sanctioned, unlike body piercing or a tattoo. Okay, so what are examples of deliberate self-harm? Okay, 70 to 90% injure themselves cutting. No, usually po yan yung mga mabababaw, no, na mga cuts. Okay, ang usual methods: cutting, scraping, carving, no, you see them using their cutters, no, you will be surprised, even ng sharpener, they can actually use them to hurt themselves. Some will end up banging themselves or bruising, no. Usually po, ang mga points for injury are the ones that are hidden. So the inner thighs, no, or the arms, no. So if you have a student, no, kung face to face, no, ang dami-dami niyang bangles, no, or laging naka-jacket, no, you also have to evaluate, no. Minsan that is an attempt to actually hide the scars, no. And some do burning, no. Yung burning ho, usually hindi naman yung body, no, but the cigarette butts, okay? And what is the reason for that? It's because, no, they are in a deep emotional pain. That is the reason why this is an attempt for them to let go of that pain. No? So, ang intention is not necessarily to end their lives, but to have a release of that emotional pain transferred into physical pain. Eventually, it calms them down. No? Ang difference sa suicide, your intention is to really end your life, no? And that is mostly coming from a chronic feeling of hopelessness and helplessness, no? Most of the time, deliberate self-harm are less severe, no? Because the person is aware that the injury may not necessarily be life-threatening. That is the reason why it tends to repeat. Okay. However, for suicide, no, it's really a strong reason to end one's life. Therefore, in the clinics, what do we have more? It's the deliberate self-harm. Okay. But is that a reason na, ay, hindi naman pala suicide, no? Hindi naman pala nila gustong saktan ng sarili. Yes, it is not suicide, but the intent is wrong. No? Therefore, if you have children like this, or if you yourselves tend to do this, no, you have to seek consultation, because we will have to teach you better coping skills. Okay, because it's a sign that you are not coping well with what is happening. We move on to another mental health concern, which is anxiety. A lot of people, no, na naririnig mo ngayon anxious, specifically what is it really? No? It's a diffuse, unpleasant, vague sense of apprehension accompanied by symptoms na physical. Usually, the most common is palpitations, tremors, dizziness, no, butterflies in the stomach, and then you feel like you have shortness of breath. Anxiety po is not really bad. In essence, it is essentially an alerting signal that warns us of impending danger, 'di ba? Bakit ka? So ang nervyos, no, hindi po 'yan masama, no? I'll give you an example. Because you feel anxious, no, and you do not want to fail a test, the tendency is for you to study. Diba? Kaya nga pag takot na takot ka, parang hindi ko nasagutan ng tama yung exam ko. Diba? Ikaw yung mas pumapasa because you are more into the fear, therefore you need to study more compared to dun sa somebody who is very relaxed. Okay? Because it is an alerting signal. Kung natakot ka sa pandemya, that is also a way for you to actually prepare. No? So, in essence, anxiety is actually not bad. Okay? And anxiety is really part of life. No? For example, ano ho yung mga normal anxieties that we feel and we eventually get over it? Sa inyong mga kapatid or anak, 6 to 10 months, when a stranger approaches them, they cry because of stranger anxiety. That's normal. When you have children, no, yung mga babies, and then you work, there is a growing separation anxiety. No? Every time may aalis, iiyak siya. That is normal. Okay? And then when you go to 3 to 6 years old, paborito mo kinukulit yung kapatid mo kasi tuwang-tuwa ka pag natatakot siya sa mga dark and imaginary figures. Niloloko mo siyang may monster under the bed. That is because that is their predominant fear. By 6 to 12 years old, there is fear of illness, death of family member, or natural disaster. That is the reason why, no, sa mga ganitong age group po, in the time of the pandemic, ang daming anxiety that was created. No? Lalong-lalo na if they hear left and right, no, yung mga namamatay on COVID. No? So you have to help them kung meron kayong ganitong age group. And by 11 to 17 years, the usual fear is the fear of failure, fear of being criticized and being humiliated. Therefore, ingat po tayo, no, when you actually teach, no, sometimes naiinis ka kasi hindi siya nag-aral, but you have to realize that their self-esteem is very vulnerable at this point in time. Okay? Ito rin yung dahilan kung bakit, no, hindi gaanong comfortable ang ibang bata, no, presenting or doing their reporting during classes. Okay? However, sabi natin, no, eventually you outgrow that anxiety, you learn to live with it. But when do we say that an anxiety is already abnormal or maladaptive? Number one, if it is irrational, no, meaning it is exaggerated and your response is out of proportion, no. 2 taon na yung pandemic, nasa loob ka pa rin ng bahay at hindi lumalabas sa takot na mahawa, no. Mahirap 'yon because we need to adapt to the new normal. When it is uncontrollable and thus cannot be turned off. You're supposed to sleep, no, pero your mind is very much preoccupied worrying about a lot of things that has yet to happen. And when you have a disrupted when you have a disrupted life because of that anxiety. Because of that anxiety, you freeze. Because of that anxiety, you no longer log in class kasi natatakot ka about what the teachers will tell you. Then that becomes disruptive because we're expected to be in class even at this time. No? So if your anxiety becomes irrational, uncontrollable, or disruptive, it is time again to seek consultation. Here are examples, no, of some of the ways anxiety can present to even young children. No? For example, no, you have difficulty sleeping. Okay, so you have, for example, difficulty sleeping, defiance, no, lack of focus kasi yung attention nila nag-flit, no, nag-iiba-iba, or avoidance, no, of the situation. Mami, ayoko dyan. No? Maraming bata ngayon ayaw daw lumabas pero actually takot na takot pala. No? Over planning. No? When you do things, ay what if I like this, what if like that, what if like that. No? So they tend to overplan. Negativity, no, or chandeliering. No? Ano ho yung chandeliering? Ito ho yung out of the blue, bigla na lang silang iiyak tapos maglulupasay. Hindi mo alam kung bakit. Okay, so that those are examples of anxiety. If your children, no, or you yourself has any of these, no, and you have difficult time, no, planning, going through your online learning, then we might have the need to evaluate. Okay. Next, we move on, no? Saan galing ang mga ito, no? Yan ba ay kung saan-saan nanggagaling, napupulot, no? There are factors that affect them: biological, psychological, social. Biological first, no? It means there are hormones in your brains, no, that are actually affected, no? Your biogenic amines are down, no? There is, because you are chronically stressed, there is an increase in cortisol, and there is some time, no, na the thyroid is affected. Therefore, kung may biological basis, ang ibig kong sabihin niyan, kailangan ho nating maggamot at some point in time, no? Kasi may misconception na yung gamot nakaka-addict, nakakatakot. That's wrong, no? Because the medicines, before they are released, no, they are studied. Important ho kasi yon for us to address, no, the problems of the child. Okay, I'll give you an example. May basis ba talaga siya? Or baka naman tarantahing bata lang siya. Diba? Ganon yung sinasabi ng iba. Okay. Look into the positron emission scan, no, of patients. No? Ito ho, ang ginagawa ho dito, meron silang activity na pinapagawa. No? And then, what they do is scan the brain at the time, no, that they have asked them to do something. No? So this is a scan. In the brain of the left, no, that was labeled left, maraming blue. It is because, no, yung green po, no, na nagla-light up means that your brain activity is of normal functioning, no. The ones that are in blue tells us that your brain is slower than usual. On the red, yung red ones po are hyperactive than usual, no. So yung brain po ng person labeled on the left is the one who suffers from what we call depression. No? Kasi depressed, mabagal, no? Ang slow ang kanyang brain, no? Therefore processing is really very slow, no? That is the reason why it affects their capacity to concentrate, affected, no, ang ability to do their academic requirements. Okay? Next, no? If 50% lang naman, hindi lahat, no, ay namamana. Therefore, no, we also need to examine ano ba yung mga factors that can increase, no, the risk for depression. Of course, maltreatment, abuse, and neglect in any forms increases the risk for depression. Substance abuse in the family will also be a significant one. Parental death. No, this is something that you have to look into. Ang dami ho ngayong families na naulila. Especially those, no, sabi nila, children who has lost their parents before the age of 11 at wala hong pumalit na maayos na caregiver, yan ho ang very high risk. And of course, the lack of family cohesion or a frequent parent-child conflict. Is this one a similar scenario in your family? No? Buti nga ito magkakasama pa. Baka sa bahay ninyo, no, kanya-kanyang kwarto, no, pero iba-ibang gadgets, no. So this one has to stop, no. Ay doktora, nagpa-bonding naman po kami, sama-sama po kami, pero look at what they are doing, no. When we say bond, you have to interact with each other, no. So how can we do that? Sometimes even meal times hindi na tayo sabay-sabay kumakain, no. I think no, important pa rin, no matter how old the children are, no, that you still find time, no. Kailangan hong ma-break yung ganyan. Nag-uusap naman kami no, doktora, sa text, no. So as much as possible po, we encourage real interactions, no. But this is not to just discourage you. No, of course there are also what we call protective factors, no. Paano ho natin mapoprotektahan? Number one, socio-economic advantage. Of course, if you have more money, no, if you have better means, there is early detection. At the same time, you can get other management options, no. Kaya ho preventive siya. Higher education is also protective because as you go up your education, ibig sabihin po, no, lumalaki din yung level of resilience. A sense of engagement in the world, a sense of mastery, emotional regulation, yung capacity mo na hindi ma-overwhelm, no, ng emosyon, no, at hindi bigla na lamang magwawala pag ikay nagalit is also very important, as well as close social network and having a meaning in life, no. So these are things, no, that will protect you from falling prey to depression. Okay. What are other mental health concerns? No, of course, the virtual world is another consideration. Kasi sabi nga natin, more of their time was spent, no, using their gadgets. Okay. However, no, ano ho yung masasabi natin? Just like any other, no, technology, it will always have its pros and cons, no. To say po na ang gadget ay salot, no, sa lahat ng bagay is really not accurate. Okay? Because if you look at it, no, technology brings about better creativity, 'di ba? Kasi if you notice, no, people are now able to learn something, you have to just look into YouTube. Okay, you can have better social networks, no, you can have better connectivity, and there is also a significant knowledge sharing, no. Yun nga lamang po, okay, you have to be particular about the sites that you are looking into, because the internet is also a significant source of misinformation, no. That is the reason why you have to be mindful of that. Okay, number two, a lot of people also fall prey to depression because, no, we tend to have what you call the social media envy, no. Pag scroll mo ng Facebook mo, naiinggit ka sa classmate mo kasi si classmate kakapunta lang sa El Nido. After niyang mag-El Nido, nasa Boracay naman siya, no. So nagkakaroon, or nag-post kayo pareho ng vaccination, bakit si classmate, no, mas maraming likes compared to you, no. So always remember, no, that your self-esteem should not depend on the number of likes that you get, no. That is one problem, no. And then you have to frequently, no, change the profiles. No, always remember, no, you have to learn to be secure with yourself, no. So you, and children, always be kind when you leave comments. Okay. Another problem is insomnia. Bakit? No, kasi ho, internet no longer stops, therefore we no longer stop. Okay, that's why it's also very important. Okay, how about the pandemic? How is this pandemic affecting all of us? Okay, in the pandemic, young people need the most attention, but they get the least. Why? Because the adults are also busy dealing with the crisis and their own stresses, no? Mahirap kasi they have to also deal with their own shifting to the work from home setup. Kaso meron ka pang anak, no? So you ended up, no, na ikaw ay nag-a-adapt din, no? But nakakalimutan natin that the children also need to be guided. Okay? Why do we feel more anxious? Why do we feel more sad in this pandemic? Because of the uncertainty. Yes, we get vaccinated. Sabi nila, pag nabakunahan tayo, that would be the end. Lo and behold, no? Kahit marami ng bakuna, nagsisurge pa along the way. Truth be told, hindi natin exactly alam when it will end. We can only hope. That is the reason why we still remain to be anxious. Of course, there is always a fear of getting the infection, pero siguro ngayon mas magaling na tayo, no? Kasi na-realize mo, no, you have experienced it. Certainly, hindi siya depende, no? Kung maganda yung experience mo, there's a tendency to be less anxious about it, pero kung very dreadful, then there's a tendency for you to be on the more anxious side, minsan bordering pa on PTSD, no? Or on the traumatic experience. There is also a loss of routine, no? Hopefully by now, 2 taon na ho, sana ho naka-recover na kayo at meron na kayong sariling routine. Information overload, okay? Ang dami-dami nating nakukuhang information and we get to be very anxious which ones to believe. Lalo na ho ngayon that we are also having an elections in the middle of a pandemic. Okay? Of course, in the beginning, there was closure of community institutions, no? Yung mga social gatherings were also prevented from happening. Ang masakit doon, wala itong mga ito, and yet our special occasions continue to happen. We celebrate birthdays, no? We celebrate Christmases, no? But unfortunately, we celebrate in our own bubbles lang. That is the reason why it's really very sad, no? And of course, it's creating financial insecurity. You don't know until when you will have a job, no? Thereby affecting the children as well. Okay? However, I will always highlight that adults need to be mindful of their own emotional states. Why? Because if you yourself are very anxious, no, the tendency is you will be passing it on to the children. Magiging mainitin yung ulo mo, no? Lagi kang magagalit sa kanila, kawawa naman sila. So si teenager, sino yung pwede niyang mapasahan? Si bata, no, yung kanyang younger brother, no? Si younger brother, wala na. Minsan yung aso na lang, no, or yung toy niya. Therefore, what I'm trying to say, it has to stop. Therefore, we being adults, we need to be more mindful, no? What are signs of stress in children and adolescents? Look into temper tantrums, hyperactivity, or yung sobrang likot, no? Irritability, being clingy, or being quiet or withdrawn, or somatic symptoms. Maraming masakit, no? Ngayong araw, masakit ang ulo. I remember, no, when we started the online learning, I have 3 children, no? All going through online learning. Ang bilis maubos ng paracetamol ko, no? Because each child will always complain of headaches, no? So, yun mga ganon, no? Sakit yung ulo, sakit yung tiyan, maya-maya masakit yung joints, abangan mo, baka pakitipilik mata, no? Sabihin niyang masakit na rin. If they are often being seen by your pediatricians, no? Hindi makita ni pediatrician what is wrong, then that is a sign of distress in children and adolescents. There can also be changes in sleep and appetite, such as difficulty falling asleep, frequent waking up, nightmares, or poor appetite, no? So we watch out for that. Okay? How about for schools? No, of course, there is still a growing fear, anxiety, and uncertainty. Before, kasi bigla siyang nagsara at mapupunta tayo ng online. Ngayon, medyo nasasanay ka na sa online learning, no? Natatakot naman tayo kailan magbubukas at mapipilitan tayong mag face-to-face. That is another challenge that we will have to get used to, no? So yung transitions are difficult, no? Initially, ang bigat ng transition kasi ang naging problem natin with online learning, hindi natin pinaghandaan na bigla tayong lahat the first year it happened, no? Kung kaya't ang laging reklamo sabay-sabay, no, yung assignments ni teachers kasi paminsan hindi naman nag-uusap si teacher, ang alam niya lang yung subject niya, yun pala si math teacher marami ring binigay, sumabay si science, sumabay yung other subjects, no? Hopefully, pangalawang taon na tayo ngayon, better yung implementation, no? Relationships have been difficult, no? Kasi ang mga bata nag-uusap lang pag may class, nakikita lang nila, but they are not really talking with each other, no? So either you increase it by doing performance tasks that are group based, no? Or ang usual recommendation ko po dyan is, no, they have to have a time na wala hong gagawin kung hindi ho magkwentuhan lang, no? Hindi ho pwede na, ang nangyayari ho kasi magsa-sign in ka for class, no? Yun na yun, no? So they don't get to know their classmates, lalong-lalo na ho, it is very difficult for children who are living alone, no? Yung iisang anak, no? So ang hirap kasi sila yung naiiwan lang sa bahay. So how do they deal with that, no? So please, no, if it's still not too late, kung wala pa po, please try, no, at least 10-20 minutes daily to allow them to just talk with each other, no, or even share activities para hindi ho nakakapagod for them to sign in. Self-regulation, no? Nagle-lesson na si teacher, no? Pero nakabukas ang social media, nakaabang sa Facebook post ni crush, no? So that is a problem. Sabi natin, Dok, na-overwhelm ako sa aking assignment eh. So, ang nag-try po ako munang mag-search muna sa internet. Nag-TikTok muna ako pampakalma. Eh, yung videos ng TikTok nyo, feeling ko ang tagal nun bago ma-perfect, no? So, nakailang oras kang TikTok, pero sa school, 0. No? So that is a problem, self-regulation, and of course adapting, because definitely we need other people to help us out, no? Sa school ang hirap, 'di ba? Pag sa online, ikaw lang mag-isa, no? Dati sa school pwede kang, of course, yung power ng no, chikahan. Kaya ang nangyayari, no, they also chika using their chat groups. Unfortunately, disabled yun in class. Kaya kailangan may backup phones, no? So we realize important talaga, no, that we have interactions with each other. So how do we handle mental health concerns, no? Hindi naman po pwede, no, na puro problema lang ang i-discuss natin, no? Let's talk about solutions. Mental wellness begins with physical wellness. Therefore, sleep well and make it a sacred priority. Okay? Pag sinabi ko hong sleep well, lahat ho dapat kailangang matulog. Bakit? Kasi ho si mami, bawal daw mag-cellphone, bawal na daw mag-gadget si baby or yung kanyang mga anak, pero si mami hanggang 12 midnight nanonood ng K-drama. No? So dapat ho yun, everyone in the family. Okay? So here is the recommended guidelines for sleep. Okay, look into your age group. The blue ones, no, that are thick are the recommended ones, no. Kung ikay teenager, you're expected to sleep 8 to 10 hours straight. Dok, okay lang yun, nanutulog ako 5 hours straight, tapos sa tanghali, meron akong 3 hours. Wrong. Hindi po tayo nag-a-addition sa tulog, no. Kailangan po ito straight. Okay. For us, adults, no, 7 to 9 hours will suffice. May iba ho sa atin, pwede ho tayo dun sa lower grades, no, 6 will do. Okay, sa elderly nga, 5 to 6 will do, no. However, kung nakukuha mo yung ganyang tulog at ikay antok na antok pa, ibig kong sabihin, you have to listen to your body. Probably, hindi ka sanay na ganong oras lang. So you have to increase. Kung ikay sobrang antukin, ibig sabihin po, kulang pa ang itinulog the night before. Okay? So, balik muna tayo doon sa taking care of your body. You also need to move every day. Exercise strengthens immune system, it lessens anxiety, and improves the mood. How can I move? Bawal lumabas. Find ways to move. Every day, my children has to walk 10,000 steps for them to get their gadgets on a weekend. No? So, kailangan lahat po ng anak ko naka fitness trackers, no, and they have to show us, no, pag nakuha na, then that's the time they can play with their gadgets, no. And of course, you have to feed your body well, no. Yes, doktora, I feed it with chips, no. Oh, masarap yon, admittedly, no, but you have to feed it with healthy food. Okay? Next, Okay? Follow a particular schedule, no? Kasi ho, the lack of daily structure challenges our sense of well-being. Therefore, hindi po pwedeng kung ano lang yung maisipan, no? Ang lagi ko diyang sinasabi, we really have to simulate as if even though you are at home, no, you are as if you are still in school, no? So yung mga bagay na dapat, no, I don't understand why parents, no, will bring their children somewhere else, no, and then ask them to sign in sa car, no. Wag hong ganon, kasi you are telling them, no, yung priorities. Kung talagang importante yung pupuntahan nyo, di wag nang mag-sign in, no, because it also disrupts. Pwede palang mag-multitask, no. Hindi ho tayo nag-e-encourage ng multitasking. Okay? Establish consistent routine, including sleep, meals, exercise, bathing, and even house chores. Okay? Again, take care of our minds. How do we take care of our minds? Again, let me tell you that it's normal to feel sad, stressed, anxious during times of crisis. But remember that the human mind is your most powerful ally or your worst enemy. Therefore, feed it with inspiring happy thoughts, no? Yung Facebook mo, no? Kung maraming nag-aaway na mga tao na iba-ibang opinion, i-hide mo na lamang muna yung iba. Snooze, no? I love that snooze function, no? Avoid negative thoughts, no? So avoid information overload. If you feel overload or every time you see your social media you feel more sad, then stop, no? And get facts from credible sources. You practice meditation, no, because it can calm your mind. You also practice gratitude, no. Ang dali-dali hong tignan ng mga negative na nangyayari, no. However, when I ask you what is a good thing that has happened to you today, parang ang hirap isipin. Diba? Kasi nasanay ka na nakatingin sa negative. Therefore, practice gratitude. Notice things going right rather than dwell on what is wrong or missing, no? Lahat ho tayo, no? Hindi nga ho natin, we cannot have it all, no? Bakit? Kasi si SM lang yung can have it all, di ba? So, tayo ho, we cannot have it all, and probably that lack, no, will drive us to do better in our life. Okay? And practice kindness, no? Look for opportunities to be kind, no? Hindi ho yung pag nag-sign in si classmate, tawang-tawa ka kasi mukha siyang hindi pa nakapag-ayos, no? So, let's practice kindness knowing that our words, no, can hurt people. Okay? And look for opportunities to be kind, because if we send out kindness, diba, we feel better. At the same time, no, when that person receives your kindness, he or she will feel better. So it will be passed on. Okay? Kaya po, kasi yun ang sabi nila, diba, kung nakakahawa ang pagiging nega, no, di mas lalong nakakahawa ang pagiging nice, no? So we will have to pass it on. Okay? Remember, parents, that we are models for our kids. How we talk and behave in front of others is a big influence on how they behave too. Kung sigaw-sigawan mo si Yaya, what will prevent them na sigaw-sigawan din si Yaya? Okay? Talk to everyone in the family, adults and children. Paminsan ho, I even recommend spending one-on-one time, no, with each child. Kasi kung 5 yung anak mo, magkakasama sila, masarap po talaga yung pagbuhulin minsan, no? Pero masaya din ho to get to know one child at a time, no? And you will realize ang galing, no, nung dynamics ng each one, no? How can all these people, no, who happen to come from me have grown into different individuals, no? So you have to know them. Bad communication between adults in the household can have a negative impact on our children, no? The more we practice modeling peaceful, loving relationships, the more secure and loved they will feel, no? Sabi nga natin, 'di ba? Their sense of security will always be felt at home, no? So for parents, you might want to look into this one, no? These are books which you can use to help them, no? So this one is a guide by WHO, yung COVID-19 parenting, no? Breathe Chill guidebook, no? This one will help you have games for meditation, okay? For distance learning, how do we parents help our children? Number one, understand your role. No? Hindi po kayo tagagawa ng module. Doktora, hindi po kasi matapos nung anak ko, lalong hindi ho kayo ang estudyante. No? So you are there to see, to oversee kung may problema, no? Try to help them understand what is the problem. Understand the expectation for distance learning, no? Expected ba natin na dapat sila ay mag-perfect pa rin, no? Or ang expectation is to learn. Okay? Ask help when needed, no? Even for students, no? Ang mga teachers po natin hindi po manghuhula. Kami hong mga magulang hindi rin po manghuhula para malaman what is happening sa inyo, no? So please tell us. I always tell my children, seeking help, no, is also a skill that you need to know. Okay? Create a study schedule or routine that best support your child's needs. Prepare a dedicated study space. This is very important. Doktora, magkatabi po yung grade 1 ko tsaka yung grade 6. Bawal po yun. No? Each one should have a designated study space. No? Minsan nga ho ako pag nagkiklinik, kulang na lang sa garden no? Kasi wala na ho akong space because all the children occupy it. No? Kailangan may ganun. And you have to be mindful. No? Nagkaklase si anak pero inuutusan mo. No? So wag hong ganon kasi that will also disrupt them. Reduce distractions. No? Yung table niya, ang dami-dami niyang kung ano-anong nakalagay, then remove them. No? But the basic necessities has to be placed. No? Nakikita ko yung iba, sobrang decorated, only those that you need. Okay? Use a checklist for focus and usually, ang checklist po na yan, pwedeng kayong dalawa ang gumawa. Allow for frequent breaks between lessons, encourage movement, no? Stay positive even through technical difficulties, no? Kung natataranta ka, pag biglang nasira ang internet connection, mahirap 'yon. Okay? Acknowledge when your child does well and encourage them, no? Lagi ho 'yun dapat, no? Ang problema, no, natutuwa, nasasabi mo na napapagalitan mo lang siya, no, pero hindi mo napupuri. It has to be frequent dapat yung praises, no? And of course, no, mahirap man hong sabihin, don't forget to have fun, no? In fact, if there is something that this pandemic has given us, it's the chance to be with children, no? With our children and to eat meals 3 times a day with them, no? So don't forget to have fun, no? And then, no, sabi natin resilience, no, is something that we all need. No? So paano ho natin tutulungan ng ating mga bata to have better resilience? These are examples, no? Let us learn from our mistakes, wag natin siyang katakutan, no? Understand our strengths and our weaknesses because we all have weaknesses. Even Superman has his own weakness. Okay? Have that self-control, no? Meaning disiplina ho yung kailangan, no? Hindi ho pwedeng kasalanan lang ni teacher, no? Baka rin kasi dapat nagla-login ka at nakikinig pero hindi ka dapat nagso-social media, no? So that is self-control, no? You also need to recognize your own emotions, no? You can also have better realistic expectations of yourselves, no? So these are examples in terms of how you will have resilience, no? Parents, no, wag ho laging kayo ho ang magso-solve ng problem ng bata, no? Allow them to do their own problem solving skills because that is one way of being resilient, no? And as I close, no, my presentation, no, I'd like you to remember, no, this one is something, no, that resonated with me even as a child, no. Be the best of whatever you are. I first read it when I was grade 4, and since then this has resonated with me. If you can be a pine on top of the hill, be a scrub in the valley, but be the best little scrub by the side of the rail. Be a bush if you can be a tree. If you can be a bush, be a bit of the grass, and some highway happier make. If you can be a muskie, then just be a bass, but the liveliest bass in the lake. If we can't all be captains, we've got to be crew. There's something for all of us here. There's big work to do and there's lesser to do. And the task you must do is near. If you can't be a highway, then just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. It isn't by size that you win or you fail, but be the best of whatever you are. Okay, remember, no, that you are loved, no, and that you have your own inherent talents, no, and you just have to tap it. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you so much, Doktora. Ayan, so students,